Everybody's all right. Yeah, so welcome to the second meeting of Democracy 3.0. And, last week I was reading Swarmwise by Rick Falkvinge. And there was something that I think was really relevant to a question I've been thinking about, which is the question is, so, we're setting out, we are building this organization that innovates democratic processes and integrates people together and brings people together around one shared consensus. And the goal of the organization is to grow big enough that eventually our shared consensus is, we're big enough as a block of voters that our shared consensus that we will be able to tell the government and the politicians, this is what we're doing. and if you don't go along with it, we're voting you out because we've got that many people. And so the shared consensus part, I think that's a thorny problem. I mean, that's a major problem of our country right now is this polarization, the idea of reality itself is starting to split apart where people don't even agree on facts, like very, factual, basic facts. And something from the book that was relevant is, Michael last week talked about the 3 pirate rule, and I got the wrong impression about it. And I realized that the rule is that in his big viral open source organization, any 3 people, if they agreed on something, they were allowed the rule was, just do it. If 3 of you agree on it, just do it. Don't ask for permission. You don't need permission. You can represent the organization. You can do it. But there's a caveat to that, which is that these 3 people, they could completely do it and act for the organization and be the organization. But at the same time, like, they did not have the authority to say, 3 of us agree, so therefore everybody else has to also do this or not do this. It was just, like, if you like this, you think it works, just do it. And then everybody can, do what they think will work. And then things that worked well just naturally like attracted more energy and time. So I've been talking a long time. So let's go in a circle again. Brian, and I think we're also trying to come up with the agenda items for this meeting. So Brian, over to you.
Yeah, my name is Brian. I'm in North Carolina, and I'm interested in crowdsourcing functional government. I guess I'm still, I'm curious in some clarification on what Eddie's goals are, and what his time frame for influencing the political process is. As most of you guys know, I have a very specific strategy in place to try and influence the 2022 election. And I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on that, Eddie, as far as your time frame and theory of change.
Yep. I'll answer that, but let's continue the circle, and I'll talk about that when it comes back to me. So Michael, over to you.
Hey, no, that's a really fun. I'm glad that you liked the book, and you're getting something out of it. I think that it's one of the only, I think a tactic of crowdsourcing is one of the only means that we have of getting the type of pressure or power that we need to move this up the needle. But yeah, no, that's just cool. So appreciate that.
Thanks. Lynn, over to you.
Hey, everybody. Lynn, and I live in Hesperia, California, and I'm very pleased to be included in these discussions. As apparently I'm representing the female gender around here. My goals for moving American Union and the Phoenix Congress forward is definitely focusing on equitable treatment for across the board. So we're not picking and choosing and putting up conditionality, and have a strong focus on basic income as a ground floor, as we called it, build the floor so we can raise the roof, you know? And let's pop that over to TC.
Hi,
I think Christopher is next on my screen.
Christopher's next. Go for it, Christopher.
All right. Thank you all for having me. I'm honored to be here to have these discussions with you all. I have some previous experience as a legislative director in the Michigan House of Representatives. But my focus has shifted pretty dramatically to definitely the open source decentralized realm, and specifically the intersection between, public and open entities. So, it's similar to public-private partnerships, but with open source. And there's more projects now that are producing, substantive data that we can look at in the future, all with the hope of lifting dependency, off of certain, entities, in hopes that people would be able to tap into open source to fulfill these needs on their own. So that's kind of where my mind is. Thank you.
TC?
Now me?
Yeah.
Hey, well, I hear what you're all saying, and I agree with to get the a larger amount of people to have consensus. And of course, that's what I'm working on, is what kind of programs can we create that build consensus among people. And I've told you all about two of them, or one of them. I found another one last night. And but the idea is you bring opposite people together and have them talk in a facilitated, informed way, and they begin to actually feel good about each other instead of you're the enemy, you're da, da, da. No, we just have different points of view. We're really not different. We just think different ways of doing things. So that's where I'm at. Slowly but surely, I'm plugging along. I haven't heard back from the lady at Stanford where I'm trying to set this platform up. So I don't have anything really to report.
Wonderful, wonderful. So to talk about Brian's question, which is a really great one. What is the time frame, and what is the theory of change, as in, like, how, if this is going to work, how in the world will it work? Because we're 6 people and we're talking about changing the country, which is 300 million, and enormous government and lots of money, and et cetera, et cetera. So I think that the Pirate Party story is I think that there's 2 parts, and the Pirate Party story is one part. The Pirate Party story shows us that it is possible for a political movement to go viral, and achieve large numbers, and subsequently achieve power very, very quickly. It is possible. Doesn't mean that we can necessarily do it, but it can be done. It can be done. I'm saying we're not guaranteed that we can do this, but generally speaking, it has been done, so it can be done.
Wait,
that's one part of it. Yeah.
Sorry, Eddie, if you're comparing us to Sweden, we have different government, a different setup of government.
Yeah.
They have a parliament with a multi-parties, where it's possible for a small party to get some access. We don't have that system in the United States. So I don't think it's a good comparison to say that just because it worked there, it can work here.
Well, I don't have the numbers. Sweden is smaller, but I think the Pirate Party, like in terms of their reach, the number of votes they got, um, they got big numbers. They got big numbers to be able to get into parliament. Maybe as a small party, but they were, I think that as swing voters, we're aiming for 3.5%. I think is what people say. Would you agree with 3.5% is what we need?
As a group of swing voters, yes, but as a political, if you're talking about forming a political party to try and get candidates elected, then you need at least 10 times as many as that. So they're two different models, which isn't to say that it isn't possible to
Yeah.
create a third party.
Yeah.
Just that it's not likely to be an effective strategy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the near term, goal is 3.5% swing voter power as swing voters. So I think that is possible through potentially through going viral. So that can be done. Going viral can be done. We're not guaranteed we can do it, but it can be done. The other part is that if you only go viral, so there's another difference between the Pirate Party and what we're trying to do, which is that the Pirate Party apparently started off with, this was 2006, and it was like people were downloading. It was the bootleg era. People were downloading music, and they didn't figure. A lot of people did not figure that was wrong, and the IP industry figured it was wrong. So they coalesced around that one issue. Okay. What we're trying to do is different. Is different. Maybe it's harder. It's wonderful that we have Sass here because he's an expert on voting science. And if we only went viral, we only got that piece, it still wouldn't work, because if we got, like, say, 10 million people representative of America right now, those 10 million people are probably like really polarized, and like 3 million of them, and the other 3 million, there's just a lot of tension, let's say, and it would probably be very hard to get anything done. So the other part of it is that we have to build a collaborative democratic process that works, like some process that allows people who may completely disagree about, lots of different ideas, and yet, be able to have everybody interact, like TC was talking about, like be able to sort of change how they feel and see each other, like, at least that, we can build this sort of inclusive space that you don't have to disagree with each other, but we're all still human beings, and we can all have a basic level of, I don't know what you need, whatever you need, so that you can actually sit and talk and actually find things that you just agree about, a consensus, instead of and not just have it devolve into So that was long. The screen has changed, so I guess Christopher is now next. We're gonna keep going clockwise.
Okay. So, like, I definitely agree on a lot of parts. Specifically about people and behaviors and decisions that could be made, in regards to bettering the process. But I think if we are going to weigh, and I might get a little on a tangent here, but if we're going to start to weigh, okay, so let me, and I know we're going on a round robin real quick, but let me ask the main question here, other than, so the main goal here is to reform the process as we know it, and what we're trying to, okay. I have a personal belief that a lot of the institutions that exist now have a lot of the, you know, the isms embedded into them. So I think that there's a needed combination of creation of new systems that don't have the isms embedded within them, and, you know, operation of the system as it exists now. And the belief that I have, and I think that some of you also share, is that, you know, the difference between something that we want in the current system, between having it and not having it, is just providing an infrastructure or building an infrastructure that would provide for the, you know, the gooder service or the standard of living notch increase. And it's my belief that digital infrastructures and, you know, processes can be set up to provide for these mechanisms with public and open private partnerships. And then further, I believe that open source can do it alone, which could cause some conflict with public. But being able to create a space where people can come in and meet with their minds. So yes, preserve the semblance of self and meet in a space with their minds is a different thing, because, you know, in a virtual setting, people can join in from all over the world, from different backgrounds, to speak about one specific piece of existence. And, you know, it's important to be able to, you know what the uniqueness is of your situation, but be able to cultivate the commonalities between us. So I'm totally on board with that part and what you guys say in regards to helping people have conversations without, you know, focusing on what their point of view is. So yeah, and I think that the platform itself can probably exist in many ways. But then also making it so that people would want to use it on a regular basis. So not necessarily addictive, but just wanting the participation aspect alone should have a, you know, pretty friendly user interface there, and something that could be measured over time. But yeah, I really love the idea, and I think that you know, a lot of the pieces have already exist and have existed in small pockets for a long time. But you know, we have the tools now and the ability to build these infrastructures that can provide for mass adoption of these new ways of doing things. So I will yield time. Thank you.
Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, that was everything you said, man. Christopher, fucking, you're on the right stuff right there, dude. Like, I don't even have much to add to that, but yeah, and look, I want to hear more about some of those ideas. So.
Lynn.
Don't know if I had too much to add to that. That was really impressive ideas and thought process. I do have one to toss out as to how do you all think that something along the lines of ranked choice voting, Final Five, I mean, it's got a lot of different names, right, would assist with growing this movement, because we would be able to support candidates other than the two, you know, the duopoly candidates, and which are not typically in our best interests, as the majority population has seen and has made their voices known that they can't seem to make any headway along that line. So how do we get our better candidates forward? And like I said, when we've got the policies of American Union coming in, people should be willing people who are willing to make that commitment and move that platform and those policies forward should gain that support, our support. How do we move that forward? So that's just, I'm full of more questions than answers. So I hope y'all don't mind that. And hopefully we can just get into further discussion on these items.
Awesome. Welcome, Sheridan. We're going in a circle, so let's go to SAS. And then Sheridan, you'll be in the next round.
Sure.
Hey, nice to see you, Lynn. I'm so glad you showed up here. It sounds like you and I have a lot to talk about. So really what I see this particular group as is building the next version of democracy. So Lynn, what you're referring to is kind of the here and now about voting method reform. Ranked choice instant runoff voting is not the path forward. It doesn't deliver the things you believe it does, but that's okay because we have things like star voting and approval voting that will help us get there. And we can talk about that more another time. I host open democracy discussions on Tuesday evenings. I can send you an invite. I'd love for you to attend and we can talk more about that. But this is more about like, we are looking very far forward and we want to start building the infrastructure and prepping like the minds of everybody to be ready for kind of what is beyond representative democracy. Because there's a lot that's fundamentally flawed with representative democracy. But yeah, I mean, there's for sure what we have to do to save the planet right now, but then there's kind of like, okay, but there's a lot more to go out from there. And that's what I'm really excited about is I've been thinking about this stuff a lot. I've been talking to a lot of people. We have people just in this room from a diverse area of things that are all doing their own work in the different political spaces that are all related to this. And there are more folks I've met who I want to bring in. And I'm really excited to see what we're going to be able to build. But I'm so happy to have you here, Lynn. I think it is going to be a lot, but I'm super glad you're here. That's all I have.
Brian.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Let me just kind of recap for the people who are new, sort of what the American Union and the Phoenix Congress is. Starting with what is our ultimate goal? And if our ultimate goal is to get legislation on the president's desk, traditionally we've gone about that by trying to elect candidates in all the different districts around the country and hoping that we get a critical mass of people elected who will then push the issues that are important to us on the national level. And then they'll build enough power over time in Congress to put these issues on the president's desk. And political parties, that's a 20th century model. We can do better by crowdsourcing democracy and writing the legislation that we want on the president's desk ourselves. And so for the last few years, that's what I've been working on, developing a specific legislative package to end poverty, end mass incarceration, and end the endless wars, with the goal of building a block of swing voters who will use passage of that as their metric, not party affiliation, as far as whether or not to re-elect the incumbents. The incumbents are the ones who have the power to put it on the president's desk before the midterms. If they do that, then they can get the votes. If they refuse, we can vote for their opponents. And that's the way to make the greatest impact on the legislative process. But unionizing as swing voters only works if you can actually write down a specific set of legislative demands. It's not enough for candidates to just, nod and say, yeah, we like your issue, because then it goes into Washington, D.C., and then they don't get anything done, or the lobbyists get their dirty fingers all over it. To really crowdsource democracy, we've got to be able to recreate that legislative procedures. And so, Christopher, I'm definitely looking forward to talking with you more about your experiences. I served in the New Hampshire legislature for a number of terms. So the way that we came up with this legislative package to end poverty, end mass incarceration, and end the endless wars was by building consensus around issues. And the way that we did that was through a shared self-sacrifice, a monthly fast, 24 hours of no food, just water. And fasting and compromise are two sides of the same coin. They're both willingly giving something up. And so people who are willing to give something up, were willing to compromise, looked at all these different policies and the whole package, and a supermajority of participants signed on and agreed to this package. And so that's how we built consensus around these specific solutions. And so in 2022, the goal is to build that block of swing voters and offer this package in every single congressional district. You know, it's great that there's so many people here today who really like the minutia of legislation and policy and things like that, but the vast majority of Americans don't. They just want government to work. They just want to know that, you know, they're going to be treated fairly by government. Like, I don't really care about the minutia of who paves the streets and changes the light bulbs in my town. I just want those things to be done. And so that's how the vast majority of people would like America to work as well. So by offering them a very specific set of solutions, and saying, you know, this is what we want to deliver in 2022. Hopefully we can take that package viral and deliver legislative change this year. So that's what I'm working on, and I hope we can cooperate and collaborate on making it better. Thank you.
TC.
Yes, you know, I'm listening and I'm thinking that one of the problems with politicians is that we keep electing them. And so I've been of the belief that part of the problem with government is no self-regulation of self. And like you said, Brian, people don't want to get in the minutia of government. They really don't want to do it. And yet, if they don't, then look who does do it. So my goal is to get people where they're not caught up in the minutia, but they know enough about connecting with other people that they can come to a consensus on things that we can agree to, like what you're talking about, Brian, with the proposal that you have. See, I think that's great because you're going to get people on board with that. And so that's one way to go about it. But I'm just thinking about getting people on board with each other. So it's kind of like greasing the wheel, so that people can come together and actually get past their differences. You know, you said, Eddie, if you put 10 million people together, 3 million would be, but they've done that. They found out that they can actually overcome their differences. So not 3 million, but they had 500. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's really great. So to give you guys a little bit of background, you know, this thing started because I have been doing this economics discussion YouTube channel with Brian. And so, you know, his ideas about the American Union, which he's been working on really, really hard. I think sleeps about 4 hours a day for years. You know, this idea that, you know, to me, the core of Brian's idea is, you know, look, these politicians promise things and then we elect them and then they get into office and then they don't fulfill their promises. So that doesn't work. Why not just, you know, write the legislation and then tell the politicians, this is what you pass, and, you know, you do it or we vote you out. And to me, like, I see sort of a broader sense of that, which is that, you know, I think that I think that the representatives, the politicians, they were potentially necessary, 100 years ago or before that. And I think it was Michael or either Michael or I think it was Christopher, was talking about, it's the 20th century now, and we can meet and communicate much more easily than was possible before. And I think something is now possible that was not possible before, which is that you can open source the democracy. They've done it with software and it works. They've done it with Wikipedia. And they can figure out processes. I've been talking with Sasa for a while about this, and he's convinced, I think he's convinced that the Sortition Foundation and a method of deliberating as a group, and then say you have 100 people, then the groups are, what are they, like six people or something like that, and they deliberate, and then they each elect a representative for that meeting that goes up, and then there's a larger group. So you can scale the entire 100 people as a pyramid into groups of 7 deliberating, and so I think SAS is convinced that something like this can work, and I think something like this can work, and it can work in the digital space. I think we can do this. I think we can design some sort of process that in some sense can integrate these large numbers of people and their ideas and their desires, what they want and what they don't want. And as Thomas, as TC was talking about, we, a big part of, we need this because, otherwise, the way it's set up right now, you have, I guess the media or the establishment or whatever, dividing us, and you just have, 2 groups of people that are completely divided, and then, like a smaller group at the top who can sort of manipulate the system, because the 2 large groups are always at their throats and at each other's throats. And so they lose their power because they cancel each other out. So yeah, I think that I think it's the ideas, and then but for our theory of change, for like how this is going to work, because you already have a system there, it's like you sort of have to build on top of it, but we can build independently this open source democracy, and then when it gets large enough, then you can just plug it into the old system, do all the deliberation and the consensus finding in your new democracy 3.0, and then just say, okay, we all agree on this, and so as a group we're going to tell the old system, this is what you do, and our votes are the power that says you do need to do it or you're out. On to Christopher.
So this is highly fascinating to me, and I really appreciate being part of the conversation. I think there's a lot of substantial changes that need to take place within the existing system as well. There's millions, and I know you guys have listed your guys. Some, but I focus more on structural and functional pieces of government rather than social and appropriations. But I like interoperable exchange of data needs to be a must between agencies. Data that's collected on us should be plugged into algorithms that let us know if we're eligible for any grants, and then automatically apply for those. There should be mechanisms where like we try to change incentive into inspiration. So rather than directing behaviors through societal design. We encourage behaviors through self. So, you know, I have a lot of, but voting is an important piece, and I've learned a lot from you all and SAS with our previous discussion, and I do believe that yes, the way that things exist now is not okay, and generally, you know, gerrymandering and going to the poll and voter suppression, you know, and we in both sides view those topics differently. So I think it's, yeah, the voting piece is one of the most important pieces to work on, and I've been an advocate for the digital blockchain voting piece for sure, opening it up a little more, you know, and I'm from the right traditionally, but I've definitely changed my full stance on politics in general. But yeah, just simple things like, I mean, not simple things, but things like that that are automated that protect people, so that they don't have to go engage with the institution itself. Rather, the institution's revolving around us, kind of thing. Okay, thank you.
Michael.
Yes, I just wanted to address a couple of points. I really like the idea of building systems or structures in parallel, because just in my own online communications and people I interact with, I know that there's a lot of groups that are trying to they want to accelerate the the coming of some sort of societal systemic change or whatever, but they don't ever articulate what exactly that new goal is going to look like, what the process is for getting there, and is in a way that Americans are going to fucking embrace, because there's no substance there. So spinning up structures in parallel that are developing confidence amongst the people, and then at some point you can just transition over to it, is definitely a smart way of doing that. Also, I mean, again, those same sorts of efforts, they require a lot of human involvement for government to work. Right now, government requires a lot of human involvement for it to work right, and humans don't want to do that work. So leveraging technology to do the dirty work of the minutia of the shit, I think would be great. Now, I think that in general, though, like the problem with our current structures are the people. Like our systems that we have, our human political structures, represent the will of the American people that we are today. We're divided not because there's two parties, but because there's a giant rift in this nation from a society standpoint from day one, and it's never been resolved. And that's reflected in the Senate and the Electoral College and all the way up into the way people vote today. And so how do you change the hearts and minds of people is really the question that I think. Now, if you can remove people from the political apparatuses a bit by leveraging technology, that helps a bit if it's open sourced and done in a ethical way. Of course, I think that's smart, but still, I like all of these conversations. We like to think a lot of times that if we just demonstrate a good policy to people, people will get on board, and it's just fucking not true. It's just not true. People, they don't want to support anything if they think it's going to benefit not themselves, or even if it benefits someone else, but they don't receive anything from that. They don't want it. So technology rapidly getting us there, or we're stuck with waiting for people to have empathy towards one another, which I don't see happening soon, unfortunately.
And you're allowed to pass if you like, or speak as you wish.
Actually, I'll add just a drop or two of hope on what Michael just said, because I was listening to C-SPAN this afternoon, there was a hearing, and it was not a fresh one. It was from September, but it pertained to various colleges, universities, and their food programs working with students. And on the note of the hope was that there were students who were turning down their being qualified to receive these meal packages and such because they believed others needed them more. So in our younger generations, perhaps we do have some more hope for that empathy, because all of these people, and these are our up and coming thinkers and doers, they're supporting each other in that way, as in a way that perhaps my generation, the generation prior to me, very much for me, and not really looking around and seeing what benefit we could be to others. So I'm hopeful that what I was hearing today was not just lip service, and that it was genuine, since it was being reported from people who track this information in direct contact. And I see it myself when I work at food drives at our local community college as well. There are people who come up and say, I will work here not so that I can have the food, but so that I can take it to someone I know who does, or something along that line. And so there is heart and mind out there that has more compassion and empathy than what we've seen over the last, since everything went crazy in the 80s, and I lived and experienced that, so I know what that's about. But we need to get back to that, being connected to those in the community as people with needs. Imagine that, right? So I think there is a turning. I think there's a lot more people who have that heart and have that mind, but they're a little frightened to come forward with it because they're going to get shut down unless they've got a support community around them. So cross our fingers and keep the hope alive.
Sheridan, over to you.
Yes, I just undid a rubber band ball. Didn't even realize how that was done. I'm the community manager of MADAO, and I'm very excited to be here working with all of you. Eddie is also with MADAO, and I'm excited to see, like Chris was mentioning, making all of the grants and benefits automated. There's a lot of technology coming around, like distributed IDs, which will make it really easy to integrate someone to these automated processes with very little data. We only need very basic data for most of these applications. And that can all be put onto an NFT, and it can be used as their application status that is put everywhere. So they can just interact with things. I would actually really enjoy seeing a sub-service of MADAO provide that for our e-commerce members, because I think that would be very much in line with our mission and goals. So I'm really excited to be here, really excited to hear all of these. I shared a link about the DAO moment. It was shared to me by Gavin. I'm not sure if any of you met him, but really cool guy. And it very much taps on exactly what we're talking about now. Is we're coming to the realization that some of us are really good at seeing systems of organization, and a lot of us don't really care what the system is. We just want to see progress in organization. So if we can automate a lot of that with the current technology, I would really like to see our current government ossified for sure.
Sass, over to you.
Oh yeah. So I guess I'll say, because earlier I said I want to build the next version of democracy. So with y'all here, many of you have heard me say a lot of this before, but I'll try to put it all together into one thing, especially now that's being recorded, which is great. So the idea here is the idea that I have is building a digital platform, um, effectively a donor-funded social media platform, open source, um, using all the modern tech, and it's going to do a couple things. So it's funded by donations. There's no ads, which means that there's no profit motive to ruin the algorithm, so we can make the algorithm more balanced. It'll be more geographically located, so there'll be some amount of political focus, but it's about getting the right information in front of people. But basically what happens is in your feed of user-generated content, you will also have, hey, there's this legislative bill up for a vote. What's your opinion on it? Thumbs up or thumbs down? And you can tap in and you can learn more. You can read about it, get education about it. You can see what your different representatives are saying about it, or other people you care about, and how the vote's going and all this stuff. It's all public information. You see summaries of it, all this stuff, and then you can express your opinion on it right there in the app, and that's stored on a blockchain or whatever. And then this enables a mass increase in scaling of polling data, especially if you leverage proxy voting, which is something that's used in liquid democracy. So you can choose to give your vote to somebody else to vote on your behalf, even if it's just on specific topics. You can always rescind it at any time. You can always override it whenever you like. You can change it in the future, but then this allows us to collect polling at a much, much larger scale. It can be combined with traditional forms of polling, calls, emails, texts, phone calls, door knocks, mail, literature, whatever. And then you have all this public data. And then if you have somebody in Congress, which originally this was my plan when I was running for Congress, I can use that data, I can use that public polling to bribe representatives with votes instead of with money. And so I can say, hey, I polled 10,000 people in your districts. The 6,000 said they voted for you, and 70% of those said they support my unconditional basic income bill. The 4,000 who said they voted against you, 80% said they support my unconditional basic income bill. If you co-sponsor my bill, I'll tell all of them for you for free. And so it's kind of a 21st century hack around the gridlock that we see in Congress. And so this was to create a citizen-fueled government accountability system that did not require any consent or participation from the government. It's just coming from the people. And you can also, and you keep adding more to it, right? So you have things like you're getting ready to go to the polls and you get a notification on your phone that says that your representative, your incumbent, is only 27% representative of your opinions. So maybe you should vote for somebody else, right? It's about getting the information to people. Right? A lot of people vote against their own interests because they don't know that they're voting against their own interests. And we can't expect people to filter through and get through all of the addictions and all of the ways that we hack people's brains today: drugs, sex, social media, video games, whatever. Like, let's play dirty and let's get this information directly in front of people in a digestible format that says, like, your representative gets an F based on your opinions. And then they also get an F for your whole district or whatever. Maybe they'll vote differently. But then I've been talking to some of the other folks in this room about other ways that we can leverage this platform. For example, deliberative democracy. So we can use an automated sortition-like, citizens assembly-like model to help fuel discussions around addressing different issues. Maybe what Brian's doing with like actually writing legislation and actually getting opinion. And we could have a whole section in the app for people who want to get that kind of involved. We can gamify making the world a better place. So I think the simplest example would be a local artist creates some like cool artwork that like a hat that you can put on your avatar in the app. But the only way to get it is to go volunteer at your local food bank for 4 hours. And the person who runs that food bank gets to decide whether or not you get that little token. And we make it super easy for them. As Sheridan was pointing out, we can automate all of this stuff. And so now we're incentivizing people to be active in their communities and actually do things, right?
So
Which I
Sass,
think
I
Pokemon
want
Go.
I want to ask, are you developing the software of this?
I would love to work with all of you to develop the software on this. I've thought a
I
lot
would love
about
to
this.
work with you to help develop the software for MadeOut, because that's one of the big problems we've been running into is sorting and making sure that it's meaningful while still acknowledging that people just want to scroll on a feed.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, because right now it's just the marketplace in Discord.
In Discord, yeah.
Yeah.
We're working on the economic model in the pre-alpha, and then the alpha is going to be stress testing the automated features of Cardano. But when we get into the beta, we're going to scale up to thousands, and we need a system to sort those orders. So a social media platform would be a beautiful front end to sort all that.
Yeah. Front end is a good way to think about that. So I'm literally thinking about like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, right? Like whatever, we can test whatever methods work best. We can give people settings, right? We can actually give people choice as to how they want to interact with their social media, because it's
One
open source.
thing that I saw, which was honestly pretty nefariously brilliant, there's a social media app called Buddy Jane. It's for cannabis patients and stoners. And they don't have like retweets. You can't reshare something to your page. You can share stuff outside of the app. You can comment and you can like. So like limiting features in a healthful way could be a way to go around blending these platforms together.
I love it. Yeah. So I'm thinking about literally a free app on the Apple App Store, the Google Play Store, and a website. And like you said, a front end. And it's like a social media, but there are no ads because it's donor funded, and you can donate money and you get other cool little digital, like I said, pretty things you can put on your avatar. You can color your name differently or whatever. But the other cool part about this is that like it's also right. So there's like residency verification, there's humanity verification, kind of deals. And so
Sass, if you're interested, MadeOut is definitely down to help with the business side model, because it doesn't sound like you're interested in doing any kind of fundraising or profit motive with this organization. And MadeOut definitely needs that kind of front end. And the way we work is a bottom heavy horizontal basic income model with caps on single accumulations and limited timeframes, and then a fee schedule to slowly allow more tokens to be made beyond the basic income.
Yeah. So for sure, like this is, where I collaborate with others and like definitely want to leverage all the other open source projects that are out there. I'm compiling, I have my own list.
Oh man, if
projects
you're
I've come
down for that,
across.
start checking out Cardano. There's Atala Prism, which is humanity verification. And it is very complex. And I believe they're going to interoperate with DIDs. So it's going to be very easy to plug and play a lot of these services, my friend.
Yeah, definitely a lot of plug and play. And the idea is like you have, like I said, there's more local interaction, right? So, national politics tends to draw a lot of attention, and you can interact with anybody in the country. But like in terms of what shows up in your feed, you're going to see there's some national stuff, some state level stuff, some county and like local level stuff. And so you're actually, it's not just about like, we need to be able to keep people drawn in so that way people stay on our social media.
It's not hard to draw them in. What you can do is provide their profile with all of their interests. If they are interested, and they can even adjust what their time frame aims for. So that they can make sure that they are getting the feed that they want.
Yeah. So the point I want to finish what I'm saying. So like, yes, that's all the R&D, right? But the idea too is like, then also now you're actually interacting with people who are in your community rather than just like randos on the internet who knows where, who are just going to bully you or whatever. And then, one account per person, where businesses don't get to have an account, because that's not what it is. It's about people interacting with people. So you can just keep layering on these different ideas and like implementing like, how do we actually, get these kind of democratic systems and mechanics and building and forming and bringing it to the people rather than expecting the people to go seek it out.
We're actually, this is a great discussion. We're actually out of time. So I want to close on on one idea that I think is relevant right here, which is that there is on one hand like a consensus of ideas is one thing, and on the other hand there is like a consensus of action is something different. And you know, it's potentially a trap to fall into, you know, the thing, you know, in politics where it's like, you know, ideas, 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 and then nothing gets done. So I want to adopt a little bit, you know, something from the Swedish Pirate Party example, and I want to say that, you know, we have 8 people here. If any 2 of us agree on doing something, you don't have to ask permission. Just do it. Just do it. You don't have to ask permission. There's no bosses here. Any 2 people agree on something, just go ahead. And I'd like to invite everybody to the Discord server, the Democracy 3.0 Discord server. So you know, it sounds like all of us have lots to talk about with each other. We can do that there. And I want to be prompt about ending this meeting. It's 12:01 now. So the meeting is officially over. I hope everybody got something out of it. And I'm going to leave this open so you guys can continue talking now about whatever you want. You're welcome to stay, welcome to go, welcome to talk. I'm going to go grab a Coke. And so, yes, thank you, everybody. And I'll stop the recording here.